Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26, the show where we take a variety of blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring. I am your host, Captain Xavier, and we are going to be starting a new season today, and hopefully it will be mostly Nerf, provided I can find enough actual Nerf blasters to do a whole nother season. I've got a couple of episodes lined up. Do let me know what ideas you have. This episode is going to cover some of the bows that I did not previously have, and several that have been requested. So let's take a look at our first contestant. Our first contestant is the Epic Action Bow. The Epic Action Bow was first released in 2016 as part of the Rebel line, and I find Epic Action Bow to be a really ostentatious name for what is essentially a glorified Jolt. Sure enough, if you look closely, it's a Jolt reshell. I'm sure many of you have already commented that because you're sheep and you can't help yourselves. Like many of the bows in the Nerf line, it does not have any kind of a catch mechanism. You simply pull back and release, which is actually a boon in the whole taking a K26 thing because we don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to get enough compression for it to catch, and we don't have to worry about whether the catch can handle it because there is no catch. We just have to worry if the plunger tube is large enough to hold a K26. So, let's find out! The positive upside to this being a Jolt reshell is it's as easy to get into as a Jolt is. And, surprisingly, K26 does in fact fit. And there is no plunger rod, which may or may not be a benefit. We're gonna find out. So that's a yes and a no. It can take a K26, it will fit, and you can still draw it, but because of the whole bow arm mechanism and it being flimsy plastic and all that, you're not able to actually, I don't think I'm able to get a full draw. I don't think I'm getting full compression, and so it has no more power than it used to. But physically, yes, it can, which is kind of neat. So it would appear to, while it looks just like a Jolt, it does appear to have a longer or a larger plunger tube than a Jolt does, which, if you look at it closely, there are some significant differences between this and what an actual Jolt looks like. Yeah. Anyway, so yes and no, kind of up to you if you want to. I don't think it's worth it since you're not getting a full draw. You could definitely do any manner of spring upgrade, though it's going to be kind of tricky to get the balance between having a heavier spring to give you more power, but still being able to get a full compression, because if it gets too powerful, you're going to lose compression and you're going to lose power. So if you're really interested in making this a viable Nerf gun, you definitely can. I mean, you could take out the AR, brass the barrel, and then tinker with springs until you get one that actually does give you more power. Because I don't think K26 is going to, just because you're not getting the full compression. So, there's my take on it. On to the next contestant. Our next contestant is naturally the Lightning Bow. The Lightning Bow was released in 2016 as part of the Mega line. And if the Epic Action Bow is a Jolt, the Lightning Bow is a Big Shock. Other than that, it functions pretty much exactly the same way. You pull back on the string, and it pulls back on the plunger, and you release. There's no catch mechanism, and this one has a rather annoying tendency to snap you in the hand when you fire it, just because of the brace height being way too low. The string should be approximately that far from the back of the bow so that it doesn't snap you in the back of the hand, but what does Nerf know about making actual bows? But we want to know if this thing can take a K26, and it looks like it's going to take more screws to get to it, but let's have at it. Alright, well, first thing we notice is that is a really big plunger tube. That really is huge. Okay. Similar idea, it's a free-floating plunger tube, but this one has a much longer draw. That is a long spring. That looks comparable to a Magnus almost. Which, you know, is fitting given that this is a Mega Blaster. Alright, we are definitely going to need a new coil. Well, that is another technically, because K26 will fit and you can get it to draw, but you cannot get a full draw before the mechanics give out. You're also now obliged to wear a glove because this piece of plastic hits you in the back of the hand so hard, it hurt. So I don't recommend it, but technically it will fit. On to the next contestant. Our next contestant is the Strongheart Bow. The Strongheart Bow was originally released in 2015 as part of the Rebel Secrets and Spies line. And if the Epic Action Bow was a jolt, and the Lightning Bow was a big shock, this is a for victory. It has 4 barrels, Smart AR, and you may recall that I used one of these Smart ARs to make an absolver for ire. I wanted a 4-shot Smart AR absolver for ire so I wouldn't have to reload as often. And it actually works very, very well. I used the other color scheme for that, in which the, I think, the other one, there's one that's blue as well. But we want to see if this can take a K26. Now, the Heartbreaker Bow could, and I suspect this one will be also because, unlike the previous two where the prime is coming out of the handle and going up, this one is in fact direct prime. And it is a fairly long prime. Though that's probably similar to the Heartbreaker Bow in that the prime isn't real. That it's actually only partially drawing. But we won't know until we get it open, so let's take a look. And sure enough, it is not a full... Oh, it is. Oh, interesting. No. Okay, so there's some interesting mechanical advantage going on in here. This is kind of a compound bow, almost. You can see that the draw on the plunger is about half of the draw on the string, and that's because there are 2 wheels that it's spooling around. It's unspooling this one at a faster rate than it's spooling this one, which means you're getting mechanical advantage. You're actually getting what a compound bow would do with the spindles. So this has a great deal of potential. Let's keep going. Well, that is a yes for the Strongheart Bow, and sure enough, because of the way that basically gear reduction is set up, it's not a hard draw, and it doesn't feel like it's putting a whole lot of additional stress on the blaster. So this is a definite yes. I did not get the before numbers, so I can't give you the actual numbers. It honestly is not that significant a difference, because the original spring is actually fairly close in strength to K26. It's kind of like the result of the Rivals series, in that their stock springs were almost as powerful as K26 anyway. The K26 that I put in here is the minimum length, and I suspect if you put in a little bit more, you could probably get a fair amount of power increase. You might also have more luck doubling up the spring, honestly, because there's no plunger rod for the to prevent you from putting in a smaller spring, and there's enough room in the tube to give you a slightly larger spring, so you could probably nest a fair number of springs in here. Once you start putting in a significant amount of power, where you're going to run into problems is going to be this string, because it's not designed for that kind of load. It is still a fairly powerful nylon kind of string, but the knot back here is going to be an issue, and the connection at the gear reduction system is probably going to be a weak point, as well as possibly the connection at the plunger head. So if you end up having a problem, it's going to be in there somewhere, but that mechanical advantage is really working to your favor. The downside of this particular one, as I figured out why it's at Goodwill, it has a factory flaw. This bottom barrel is improperly molded. It looks like it was actually a factory flaw. It's messed up, so only these two barrels will fire, and then it's supposed to fire this one, and it won't because you can't actually load a dart properly, and so you never do get to this barrel. So that is a shame because it can take K26, and I would have liked to have had a nice, powerful 4-shot bow, but if I get my hands on another one, I will definitely upgrade it. So that's a yes. On to the next contestant. Our final contestant is the long-awaited and much-requested Strada Bow. The Strada Bow was originally released in 2016 as part of the N-Strike Elite line. And if the Epic Action Bow was a jolt, and the Lightning Bow was a big shock, and the Strongheart Bow was a 4 victory, then the Strada Bow is a Battle Scout? Which doesn't seem like a good comparison given that from all accounts the Strada Bow is a fabulous blaster and the Battle Scout is not. But it does in fact use a similar concept of a, basically a slide is what these were referred to. It is neither a magazine nor a clip. It is a slide because each one of these is its own chamber rather than holding a cartridge. But as you pull it back, it progresses the slide, and then when you let go, it fires, which actually gives you a fairly nice rate of fire for a bow, and a fairly high ammo capacity, which is always cool. It holds, 14 rounds? What an arbitrary number. Of course, being a bow, it's not the most accurate thing in the world, but it's really fun. And one thing I didn't mention about the Lightning Bow is I found the stock, or the grip, to be incredibly comfortable, and the same goes for this. It is actually large enough for my big monkey hands, and is a good solid grip, and I appreciate that. But what we want to know is, can it take a K26? Now, for those of you that have any kind of pattern matching skills, you will have noticed that none of the bows that primed from the bottom were able to, but maybe the Strada Bow will be the exception. Let's get this thing open. They're gonna make me take out every single screw, aren't they? Maybe not. Interesting. The blue parts appear to be removable plates. Ah! We don't have to take it all the way apart. This pleases me. Lo and behold, the Strada Bow can take a K26. You once again need a glove to protect the back of your hand from this thing snapping into it, because once again, the brace height is off by a thumb. But it draws, it indexes, and it does feel like you are getting the full draw. I think, oh, yeah, I see why. It is actually a proper compound bow, kind of. Probably not truly, but it actually does have a wheel here that it is wound around, so you are getting proper mechanical advantage, unlike the previous ones. So, yeah, I unfortunately don't have the numbers again. I tried to get it, but the bow is, without how much power it now has, it's firing very erratically, and I couldn't get good readings. So, suffice it to say, it's impressive. The downside is it has become incredibly inaccurate, and I suspect that because it has so much power and the barrels aren't long enough, that it's the dart's leaving the barrel and there's sufficient additional energy to actually mess up its flight path, is my theory. But if you were to brass it or pet G it or something and give it longer barrels, I think the Strada Bow with K26 would actually be a beast of a blaster. So hopefully someone out there feels the urge to experiment farther than I have in this episode. But the short answer is yes. Yes, it can. Let's recap. Alright, for those of you keeping score at home or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a technical yes for the Epic Action Bow, but a functional no. That was likewise a technical yes for the Lightning Bow, but a functional no. That was a yes for the Strongheart Bow, and that was a surprising but resounding yes for the Strada Bow. The first two are, I say technically yes, but functionally no, because while K26 will fit, you can't get it to draw anymore, and so you actually lose power. So the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. It might be possible to find a way to get it to work if you actually put in compound bow mechanics on the bow arms, kind of like there's something similar in the Strada Bow, which I believe is what is allowing it to work where these ones failed, but I could be entirely wrong. So, there you have it. I'm actually very pleased with the results of this. I think you're going to need to rebarrel the slide to make the barrels a little bit longer to actually get accuracy out of it, because there was a definite increase in power, but a loss in accuracy. The darts are all over the place, but huge power boost. And this one, not a huge power boost because the stock spring is actually very, very strong. But I didn't put as much K26 in as I could. I put the minimum amount. I think if you put a little bit more in, it would give you even more power. It also has an actual mechanical advantage on the inside, which makes it easy to draw despite the heavy draw weight. So these two are excellent options if you really want a good bow loadout and happen to have K26 and these bows around. So there you have it. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, comments, concerns, ideas, corrections, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.